Hey guys, what's going on? Matt here, and welcome back to the Black Ops 3 Mod Tools tutorial series. So then guys, in the last video, we made this doorway, and now we're going to prefab this doorway, only the trim though, okay? So what we're going to do is, I want to copy this doorway over to this other door, but I don't want to constantly be copying all these three brushes. I could do, you know, in the scale of this sort of map, it's more than, you know, it's more than pretty normal to be, you know, to just do that. But let's say you wanted to use this doorway trim on, let's say, 10 doors throughout your entire map. It's going to become pretty damn, you know, it's going to become quite a hassle, especially if you want to edit it at all. And you got to edit one thing 10 times. It's not particularly ideal. But what we can do is we can prefab it. So if we prefab it, all we need to do is select what we want to be prefabbed. We can then right click, go down to prefab and go to save selected as new prefab. Now, before we enter anything into here, I'm just going to open up another window. Go over to my Black Ops 3 root directory, not my recording folder, and we're going to go over to map source and prefabs, ZM. Now you can see we've got ZM core. This is basically all the standard stuff for every zombie map. Got the stuff for the giant. We're gonna make our own folder in here for our prefabs. I'm gonna call it ZM_ritual. Hence, you know, the map name. So go to ZM ritual, and within here, I'm gonna just have another folder called trims. And this is where I'm gonna store all my prefabs of any trims. So think of a prefab almost as a reusable asset. So, you know, you make one thing once, you then can use it multiple times in different areas, and you can also change your prefab ones and it'll affect everything that is that prefab. So what we're doing is we go back over to this window, and we'll go down to Black Ops 3, map source, prefabs, ZM, and ZM ritual, and then trims, and I'm going to save it in here. You can really save this wherever you want in your root directory as long as it's under your map source prefabs. I just prefer to split things into map name folders and then also, you know, usage folders, just because you can imagine once you get used to making a lot of prefabs, making much larger maps, you can very easily get into, you know, tens if not hundreds of prefabs, all of that, you know, varying different styles and shapes and such, which, you know, you kind of need to keep track of. So it just helps to keep a good file structure for these. Now then, for the naming, I'm going to use the typical way I name things. So I'm going to do double door wood trim. Double door wood trim. That pretty much explains what this is for me. I'm going to put underscores in there just because when you're naming things, try not to put any spaces in there. Try and use underscores. It's just really good practice. We'll click save. So there's that. This now has been made into a prefab, okay? So I can really copy and paste this as many times as I want, and it's the entire thing that is copy and pasted, okay? Now, first of all, you might notice over here, this obviously is the origin for it. This is, you know, where it starts. It's not centered. Now, you can very much leave this as it is. You don't need to center things, but it's really good practice to do that. Purely because if, let's say, I had this and the center was actually somewhere all the way over here and I drop it into my map, I think it'll go and find where this actually is. Whereas I can always just center it, and it's always, you know, well, it's on the center of where, you know, of where you actually drop it. So to center it, all you're going to do is go right click, go to prefab and enter prefab. You're then going to press I on your keyboard. I means select everything. So just be careful, you know, how you use that, because you could be selecting a lot of things if you accidentally press it. So, and then we use these arrows, and I'm just going to move it until it's at the center point. Obviously, if you have things that, you know, are quite large, just try and center it the best you can. So we've got that centered now. I'm pretty happy with that. It all flows nicely there. So, you know, it's all positioned nicely even. I'm then going to do prefab and leave prefab. I'm going to save it, yes. So now you'll notice it's floated over here because it's now joined the center. So now, you see, as I move it, it's all centered. And we can put that back. So that's pretty much why you should be using prefabs. You know, it's a lot of the time it's for reusable things, and also for, you know, if you want to change something, it can change it multiple times without you potentially sitting there for hours changing individual elements or something. It just saves you a lot of time. I use prefabs quite a lot, especially when it comes to, like, you know, architectural sort of elements of maps, stuff like that. So that's how prefabs are used. Now, how do we access prefabs? Because of course, you know, maybe we don't have this in our map to begin with, but we want to, you know, drag and drop it in. You know, it all works the same way. So just as we did with everything else, you'll right click at the top of here, and there's one called Prefab Browser. Okay, now Prefab Browser is, well, as it says, you know, you can browse all your prefabs. So I'm going to go into here. Now this starts at map source prefabs. Okay, so we're going to go into ZM. Actually, I need to just click the reload button just to refresh it. We go to ZM, go into ritual, trims, and there we have our prefab, which was in, you know, within our files. And then can left click and drag that into the map, and you can see we've got a nice prefab. Now, as you saw, as soon as I dragged that in, it was immediately where I actually dragged it. If we had centered that, the actual prefab would have been somewhere over here. So, you know, it just reduces a bit of confusion there. So that's how to prefab things. You really can prefab whatever you want. If anything, it's good to prefab as much as possible, just obviously not excessively, because, you know, it can save you a lot of time. Also, it frees up your grid view. For example, before, when we were editing this, you'll notice everything else disappeared because it was only this that we're actually working on. It helps a lot, especially when your map gets quite big. So that's how to use prefabs. Of course, you use them multiple different ways. Things like, you know, spawners, barricades. You know, you can use them in loads of different ways. Just for this example, we just use it to prefab 3 brushes. That was all. So then, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll do my very best to help you there. Other than that, the next video we're going to be going over breakable windows. So we're putting a window in here, and we're making the actual glass breakable. And of course, making that into a prefab, because we want to use it more than once. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you now.